Good morning from sunshiny Arizona. It's another high level talk at the top. I'm Val Olson, and I'm glad to have my guest back, my secret guest, Greg Meekin. Good morning. How are you, Greg?
Well, I am fabulous this morning in beautiful Arizona. Val, how is my mic sounding here? Am I okay
Yes,
sound wise?
you sound great.
Excellent. It's a Monday. We're off to the races. I don't know about you. I'm busy, busy boy. Fun stuff happening. Goodness, where do we start? I'm so excited to be back on with you again, Val.
Let's start probably with a recap of Friday because you and I were guests on Mike Phillips' radio show. I guess Fridays is reserved for you and Mike, dueling citizens on the American Radio Network. And Friday was a big day. So I'm going to have you recap for us, Greg, what just happened on Friday.
Well, it was an exciting day. I released a memo to Alberta voters that announces an upcoming referendum on the Alberta 51 issue, June 30th, 2023. And it's gone over pretty amazing right now, even though it was just released on Friday. And it was basically a blueprint, I think you've read it through a number of times, Val. It was a blueprint for success for Alberta to finally be able to achieve independence from Canada, from Confederation, and become the 51st state of the United States of America. So in a nutshell, that's what it was. I was announcing a referendum directed to only Alberta voters, those who are able to vote in an Alberta election on June 30th. And folks will have the opportunity to have their voice heard, their vote counted between now and June. And they'll have the opportunity to reserve online, which it's already started, Val. The emails have been pouring in since Friday. It's been actually amazing. So that was Friday, and it was a fabulous 2-hour show on the American Radio Network, americanuckradio.com, with Mike Phillip. As you mentioned earlier, I was on as the first hour guest, and then Mike had two special guests for the second hour, and that was Val Olson of Val Olson News and Gordon Kessler, former MLA for the province of Alberta. So there you go. That's a little wordy recap, but does that sum it up pretty good?
The memo is going to go down in history as the official memo. It really is a call to action for Alberta voters. And I'm going to read some of this memo for those of you that are just tuning in and catching up, going, I don't know what you're talking about. What is this memo all about? This memo is full of very important news. So if you don't mind, Greg, I'm just going to take a minute and read the memo.
Oh, that would be great. That would be great.
When I have important news, I normally send out a press release. Not this time. This is a much more private gig. As an old business guy, sometimes a quick memo works best for certain scenarios. Thus, I forward this memo directly to Alberta voters, those who are legally eligible and willing to register and vote in an Alberta referendum. Please take no offense if you are not an actual Alberta voter, or if you are a politician or a member of the media. This memo is not directed to you, other than your personal vote is welcome, yes or no, if you are eligible, of course. But feel free to opine with your support, critiques, kudos, questions, or any other participation activities between now and June. Referendum for the people of Alberta. To Alberta voters, from Greg Meekin, regarding the upcoming Alberta 51 referendum. On June 30th, 2023, your individual voice will finally be heard when it comes to your beloved Alberta. You will have the opportunity to vote yes or no on Alberta becoming the 51st state of the United States of America. Yes or no, just like that. The referendum question will be, do you want Alberta to become the 51st state of the US? Yes or no? Number one, referendum day is June 30th, 2023, starting at 9:30 a.m. Number two, voter tally will begin in February. Number three, a simple email will put you on the voter tally list. Number four, prior to referendum, voter will confirm their eligibility. Number five, the voter tally will be accurate in the form of a forensic poll and will be publicly announced June 30th. Number six, if the voter tally is over 50%, forensic poll referendum results will be formally submitted to the US Senate. Number seven, if the vote tally is under 50%, everybody shakes hands and goes away, friends. Alberta will stay in Confederation. So we're going to read more about this memo. I'm reading right off the page, but this is your creation, Greg. So do you want to just go over that and break it down for us?
Wow, it reads better and better every day. Thank you for reading that, Val. Seriously, um, anyone who knows me and anyone who's read my book, Why I Came to America and What I Think Now, I'm a person who understands that there are really big challenges and problems in life, but I really, really like to look for solutions. I get a little impatient with whining and crying and beating a dead horse of old stories and old complaints and past improprieties of any issue. And I like to look for solutions. And I devised this solution in my head almost a year ago, really. But the question I asked myself was, it's clear to me that a large portion of Albertans would prefer, especially if they knew all the facts and the benefits, would prefer to be under the U.S. Constitution and be the 51st state of the United States. They can stay as Albertan, as Canadian as they want. We've talked about this. Live in Red Deer, live in Calgary, live in Edmonton, wherever you choose, or come to the United States because there indeed would now be an open border. So I drafted this memo and the concept that step by step, the most important thing here is that Albertans who can vote in an election get to the poll and vote yes or no or undecided. This conversation is really not open to anyone else. The only one of concern is the Alberta voter, and they have been, in their eyes, from what I hear from so many, have been disenfranchised and frustrated with the treatment they've received from Ottawa and Quebec back east. So I devised this basically a blueprint for success. It's the checklist that you read, Val, the invitation for Alberta to its rejoin the Union, because the founding fathers of the United States always left the door open for any Canadian province to rejoin the Union. So I believe it's going to be an invitation from the United States side of the border. But the most important thing is what Albertan voters want for their life. That's a simple question to them, because unless the vast majority of Albertans want to become the 51st state for the myriad of reasons to do so, we can talk about a little later, unless Albertans want to do it, the United States will not be even, obviously wanting to even intercede on the will of the people. However, if the majority of Albertan voters directly say that they would like it to happen, again, I believe via a vote in the U.S. Senate, an invitation will be forthright to Alberta to move forward to that end.
One key word you said there was rejoining. Okay, so this is not creating or inventing a wheel. It's the wheel's already created. The invitation has already been put out, and now's the time. It's kind of like we're at the part of our journey where grown-ups are being grown-ups and they're assessing, the reality of what they're living in and under in Alberta, and their eyes are opening up. It's a real sobering moment in Alberta. And judging from the amount of letters that you've had come in over the weekend, myself included, I mean, I'm exhausted, a good exhausted, from just navigating through the overwhelming amount of support. And it's flooding in. I had no idea the response was going to be as big as it is. And it's good overwhelming. It's good exhausted. Like, when something happens where you're like, okay, this can go either way here, and then it's just like the floodgates open, and so it's a real cool time in Alberta's history, and this is an opportunity to assess your life, your situation, and everything that's unfolding in Alberta. It's not just political, it's spiritual, it impacts every part of your life, financially, spiritually, emotionally. It's time to make some big grown up decisions that are best for you, your children, your future grandchildren. And Alberta is deserving of this. Alberta is deserving of deciding for themselves, making a personal choice. So when you make a choice, you're making it on behalf of you, your family, your household, and you're doing what's best for you. And on Friday's broadcast, we talked about just the state of affairs. And I think that's really important, because until you actually kind of go behind the curtain and start looking at the facts of what's been hidden or not properly reported to you, of just how much money, government wise, of taxpayers, Alberta taxpayers' money, has been sent away, not to benefit in any way, shape, or form Alberta or Albertans. But that dollar amount is just astronomical.
Look,
I'll give you like a pretend drum roll. Tell our listeners, Greg. Go ahead, tell them how much money their government has sent off all over to parts of the world or to their neighbors and taken from them. How much? What are we at?
Can you believe it, Val? This was live on the air on the Friday show, where the Alberta 51st Wonderful Facebook group leader, Ben Ebel, gave us some wonderful statistics on the air, and my jaw dropped. Close to $700 billion has been transferred from Alberta to the eastern provinces, mainly Ontario and Quebec. $700 billion, and $200 billion of that was Quebec. And it represented the largest transfer of wealth in the history of the westernized of the Western world. And my jaw dropped when you think that the United States is approaching 100 billion to fund Ukraine, and 100 billion. And here, since the Equalization Act started, Alberta's forwarded 700 billion. These types of quantifiable statistics are going to open eyes, Val. They opened my eyes. And I believe it will be a perfect opportunity and the perfect motivation to vote yes on the Alberta 51 referendum on June 30th.
So that's what we're going to get into today. We're going to talk about why it makes sense, how it's going to work, but also answer those questions for those that are like, well, how can it happen? And what about this? And what about that? We love solutions. So we've got the solutions for you. But for a moment, because it does take a second or two to digest that $700 billion has been pumped out of your home province and given away at the cost of you and back-breaking labor, okay? Just gone. And I had the privilege of being in Ottawa and Quebec. This would have been last year, or the year before, last year. And I was at a rally there where I was watching Quebecers who came to Ottawa, and one gentleman in particular I'll never forget. He was crying, tears streaming down his face. And he said, I am there's nowhere else I'd rather be. And his hands were like filthy. Like he was a hardworking guy in his coveralls. Just, you could tell he'd just been working and got to this rally. And he just had tears streaming. And he said, for so many years, I was taught to hate my Alberta brother. I was taught to hate them, and now I see that this was not, my brother, my fellow Canadian brother, that caused this division. It was the actions of a government, and he wept. And he said, today is about reconciliation. And this is a prime example, as there's a real division when it comes between Alberta and Quebec. And we hear, $700 billion pumped out of Alberta and $200 billion goes to Quebec. And we're angry. But keep in mind where this money is going to. Whose actual bank accounts? Do you think it's going into the people's bank accounts, into their personal bank accounts? No. You need to pay attention to what does a politician make and what's in their bank account. Where's that money coming from? Just as a starting point in all of this. That's where we need to start. And my question is, how do you even track $200 billion going somewhere? What does that look like? Like, what does the transfer in cash look like? There's a paper trail for all this kind of stuff, Greg.
Well, goodness, when you bring up the transparency and tracking the cash, where does the money go? Good luck with that. Good luck with that. We're finding it more and more every day that money has been swallowed up north and south of the border valley, swallowed up. And the last place it's divvied out to is the population. It's sad, but we talk about it a lot. And at least in my opinion, the only way out, the only solution is Alberta 51.
It is. It absolutely is, for those people that are saying no more. No more. I don't want to live how I'm living right now. And I'm in Arizona. I had a Saskatchewan couple stop by my house, and the first words out of their mouth, I can't believe how great it is just spending my winter here. It's not just the weather, it's the people. People are happier here. Neighbors care about each other. Yeah, we're not happy with certain political decisions that are made. Mainly, I wouldn't have picked that guy for the president. But besides that, as we know, presidents change like light bulbs. They're forever being changed, right? It's part of life. But your home life, your community life, your local life is upgraded drastically in comparison to what's going on in Canada, specifically Alberta. I went shopping yesterday and I could buy a big bottle of maple syrup. Okay, big bottle, huge bottle, for $9. I'm not kidding. $9, 100% pure, organic, from Quebec, maple syrup for $9. What's going on here? I'm telling you, the good life is here in the USA, and to boot, as we'd say in Alberta, $9 for fresh maple syrup. And our gas is cheaper here too. Just thought I'd throw that in there.
It's so funny you talk about this, though, but Val, seriously, politics north and south of the border really are secondary. It's how does it affect us as the people? How does it affect us when we go into the grocery store? How does it affect us when we go to the gas station? We can go on and on about this stuff, but I'll tell you what, even in the United States, gas is, quote, reasonable. But as I joke, I guess it's about $3.50 a US gallon down here. But as I joke, especially to my Democrat friends, I just want my $1.75 Trump gas back. It was $1.75 under Trump. But bottom line, with the competitive market down here in the States and the size of the market, Albertans would, right in their purse, their pocketbook, and their wallet, see a difference. Uh, from day one, as we say, boots on the ground, skates on the ice, or what have you. Gas prices cut in half, grocery prices cut in half, 10 times the selection that you have now. Being able to do business in U.S. funds, having your pensions, receiving your pension in U.S. funds with no tax deductions and so forth. On and on, we know the benefits, value, and I know the benefits of Alberta becoming the 51st state, mainly for families and income and groceries and gas and really for respect too. Alberta needs respect for a change. You mentioned earlier, we always mention that Alberta has been the second class citizen in Canada, as a, when viewed by Eastern Canada. And Alberta, as Gordon Kessler, the brilliant Gordon Kessler, mentioned on the show on Friday, he said Alberta is viewed as a crown jewel and has always been viewed as the crown jewel in the eyes of the United States because of their wealth, not only their oil, not only their agriculture and ranching, but their workforce. So the marriage, the partnership would be wonderful, and it's time. It's time for Alberta to have what she deserves, and that's respect and the type of wealth and benefits and happy life on a daily basis that they could have being the 51st state of the United States.
It's true. You're talking about a human level of just being treated how you want to be treated. And Albertans have been beaten down, they've been tossed aside, and they've just been, whatever you can take it. And now is a time for those Albertans who know what I'm talking about, know what it feels like to say, I'm done with this. And I talked quite a bit about what it was like to just be lied to and told something and then it just be not happen. That's much what it's like being part of your provincial parties in Alberta. Is you have these leaders that rise up and they make all these promises of what you want to hear, and they say, well, you better vote for me, because if you don't vote for me, you know how bad it's going to be under a socialist government. But meanwhile, all their policies are socialism, globalism, and anti-freedom and anti-independence. It's anything but freedom or anything but benefiting the citizens of Alberta. It's such a joke. I'm sick of it. And I think it's about time, starting with moms and wives, that we rise up and start addressing this. I know so many moms that have just had it. They said, we're sick of being played as stupid idiots, that, there's no value in who we are or what we stand for, because we're at home raising our children and trying to have at home businesses and raise our kids and be there for our spouses. And they make, they make you feel like you're worth nothing, that you're just a drag on society. And it's just a complete and utter lie, because when it comes to strong communities, it starts at home, and it starts in healthy marriages and healthy homes where mom and dads are both involved in bringing up their children and teaching them values, teaching them morals. This is not rocket science. This is the bedrock of a healthy society. So, it starts right there. So when you've got a politician like a female one we've got, Danielle Smith, This is her opportunity to rise up and stand up and say, I support the individual's personal rights and freedoms. And we're seeing the exact opposite happen out of her and her government. So, you know what that leads to? It leads to more unhappy people. And it leads to more people, the volumes, the masses of the conservative base of voters are going, okay, you know what? You're out to lunch. You're out to lunch, lady. That does not make sense. That's not what Alberta is all about. And she's finding that. She's hearing that. I'm just echoing the crowds. I mean, she knows what I'm saying is bang on point. And with that comes the invitation for the reuniting of Albertans joining the USA and becoming the 51st state. I want to go into some of the naysayers that say, "Oh, this could never happen." Let's start with some of the things you've heard, Greg. Why it can't happen?
Uh, you hear really the common concerns are with the medical, losing their quote free medical. And that's a deep mindset within obviously the Canadian mind, and a lot of issues going on there as far as the quality of care. But that's a biggie, the healthcare. Another biggie, of course, things like crime and/or violence, having the Second Amendment and guns. You'll hear that. And you'll hear some things like, what about our pensions? If we have federal or provincial pensions. But once those issues are walked out, as Val Olson says, it's clear as a bell that still I still can't find a disadvantage to Alberta 51. You'll have better health care. You'll have safer cities, if anything, because of the Second Amendment. You'll have U.S. funds being paid, and get pensions guaranteed and paid in U.S. funds, those types of things. But you do hear a lot of those. And honestly, Val, I think a lot's going to come down to sentimentality. That's just simply, there are a lot of folks who don't want Canada to quote break up. They want to keep Confederation the way it was, and they were raised with kids. But those are real common objections. But as I say, 90% of these objections become overcome with just literally a little brochure of information of what the facts are.
And we're going to get into some of that today because with education comes a complete new mindset. And as a fellow Albertan, when I started looking into, okay, what is the solution? How do we get ourselves out of this mess? This became something I was excited about. I became excited to learn this is a reuniting. This is a rejoining. Okay, this isn't a new idea. The founding fathers of the United States of America knew that this day would come, and so they even planned for it in the Constitution. And the Constitution ensures your right and pursuit of happiness. Okay, this is important stuff. And when you don't have it you realize you want it. Okay, like how many people do you know? How many actual legit human people do you know that you do business with or do life with in Alberta that are saying, yes, please give me one more experimental substance, jam it in my body, and I can't wait to see which way this goes. Or, yeah, sign me up. I'd happily give over another $100 billion, $200 billion, $300 billion, $400 billion, $500 billion, $600 billion, $700 billion. Who talks like that? Who talks like that in your life? A neighbor, a friend, a business person? Or would that be a politician hoping that you just don't know the facts and they word it and shove it down your throat a different way? It's time to stand up and call the garbage out. Okay, you have to. That's your starting place. And if you are wondering, well, how is this going to work? Because I have politicians privately messaging me and they're saying, Val, break it down for me. How is this going to work? And it's funny because their first response always is, well, is the government going to let you do that? Well, You know, I'm not the world's smartest person, but I'm certainly not the world's dumbest person either. And from where I stand, I don't look to the government to do everything for me. I look at a situation and I lay it all out on the kitchen table, and that's how I begin cleaning up a mess. And the first thing I don't do is speed dial my politician, which just so happens to be the Premier of Alberta, and say, hey, can you make a decision for me? No, quite the opposite. I formulate a plan that works best for me and my family and my community and the province at whole. And then I go and I say, this is what we need to do. So that's how we should be going about it, is formulating a plan. And Alberta 51, Alberta joining the USA, is the easiest and best case scenario for any Albertan that wants more money in their pockets, wants more freedom, and wants protection. This is the answer. Greg, let's talk a little bit about one of the issues I hear come up a lot. Canadian pension plan. You know, what's going to happen with our Canadian pension? We're going to lose our pension if we join the USA. We're not going to have access to health care. We're not going to have our guaranteed pensions. So start there, and how do you have that all worked out?
Well, I think that's the easiest answer of all. First, you need to definitely adjust the mindset to realize when you're living under the U.S. Constitution, under U.S. laws, you're going to be drafting a state constitution. Alberta will draw its own state constitution that drafts its own rules. A state constitution, if anyone knows Republic politics down here, state constitution is almost as powerful, if not more powerful, than the Constitution based out of Washington, D.C. You make your own rules. State constitution for Alberta, I would think, would include a number of things. Number one, universal health care for all Albertans with a low or no copay. It would include oil royalties to its citizens. It would include a First Amendment, freedom of speech, no CBC censoring you. It would include a Second Amendment, for right to keep and bear arms, which usually provides for a safe community. Pensions, this is the thing that's the most perhaps unknown or misunderstood issue. If you have a federal pension or a provincial pension, as my parents and my folks and my grandparents had, if you have a provincial or federal pension, those pensions, and again, can be guaranteed within your state constitution, are going to be guaranteed by the United States Treasury. So in other words, you'll have the United States Treasury backing your pensions. And by the way, the United States pays money in U.S. funds, so your pensions, and this is my theory, but this could be built into the state constitution. Your pensions will now be received in U.S. funds, not Canadian funds. Hello, do the math on that. It sounds to me like a 30% raise right off the top. So not only guaranteed pensions, but also paid in U.S. funds. I'm totally open to conversation and debate about all these issues, but everything I have researched is these are fundamentally, logistically possible and doable within the Alberta world, its framework, and within the United States and its constitution. So there you go. That's right off the top, a few benefits right there, Val.
Exactly. It's not hard. We write our Constitution, and we very, very firmly say that like we already know the pensions are guaranteed. We know that they're going to be paid in U.S. funds, which means that yes or no question, do you want to leave Canada and join the USA? And your guaranteed pension is going to be paid out in US dollars. Well, guess what? Your household pension payment just turned into more money than it was if you want it paid out in Canada funds or US funds. I guess that's the question I'm fleshing out here. Do you want your Canadian pension paid out to you in US dollars? Vote yes. If no, then vote no. If you want less money, vote no. If you want more money, vote yes.
That's great. That's great.
I'm
And it's
putting that
true.
Greg, I want that jotted down. That's how it needs to be said. If you want more money, vote yes. If you want
Yeah.
less money, vote no. And no one can force you. Like, you don't have to phone up Danielle Smith and say, advocate for me to be paid less Canadian dollars, right? Like, she'd love a phone call like that. But if you want more money and you want it paid in US funds, you need to email Greg Meekin 2020 at gmail.com and vote yes. Do you want to leave Canada and join the USA, Alberta? Vote yes. Email Greg Meekin 2020 at gmail.com. You can jump in now, Greg. I'm off
You're
my soapbox.
You're on a roll. That's awesome. Talk about being passionate. Monday, starting your week, ready to go and ready to roll towards Alberta 51. No, it's really simple as of this moment. A little bit of housekeeping and important to kind of just update some of this information. That number one, to hear your Val Olson's news and information, just like you're hearing today, is due. Visit valolsonnews.com, right? valolsonnews.com. And this is her platform on Twitter Spaces. So I encourage people out there, including all of my readers, to follow Val Olson and tune in when she does have these awesome podcasts. Another thing, a biggie, was this memo, the memo that I released and published on Friday. It's Memo to Alberta Voters, which is available at my website at gregmeekin.com. And that's spelled GregMeakin.com. It's in the trending section of my website. And I think, Val, you've also promoted that and or this past week on your Twitter account as well. So that's where you can find the memo. And very important here, I'm targeting February 14th. Where we'll be launching a full website with literally the step-by-step Alberta 51 information and issues and stuff, targeting the 30th of June for a referendum day. But indeed, if you want to reserve your space right now, and I can't believe it, since the Friday show, Val, emails been pouring in. I'm guessing I spent 2 hours this morning just replying to emails, which we like to do. We like to have the personal connection. If someone from Alberta emails me, it's gregmeekin2020 at gmail.com. Email me, you can email a yes, a no, or an undecided, or just make sure you reserve your spot to vote. Your vote will count. Your voice will be heard. And it starts really simply right now with a simple email. I'll tell you what, Val, I thought I knew Alberta a little bit in so much research I've done in the last couple of years and getting to know so many Albertans like yourself. And I thought I kind of knew Albertans a little bit, but I'll tell you what, since Mike Phillips' show on Friday and since such passionate promotion with the Alberta 51 group, I just have had my inbox stacked with emails of completely passionate Albertans wanting a change. I've got virtually all yes, enthusiastic yeses. I've received emails where they added 2 or 3 family members because they were going to be eligible to vote. And all we're doing right now is just reserving our space to have your vote counted. And the people, what was so interesting about these scores of emails is they were all new names, Val. A lot of names kind of when you prowl around the Facebook groups and stuff, you get to know the regular names. But these were all new names, Val. These are folks I'd never heard from before, and they were from all cities in Alberta, big and small. They were from cities I'd never heard of. And not only just, some were just the quick yes, no, yes, we haven't received a no, but the quick yes or passionate yes. But a lot had kind of their story, where maybe they're from originally, or they're in Alberta now, but they live in such and such town. And the passion from people that I never knew were out there.
I love
Was
that.
really, really encouraging to me, Val. More new names are received from past pastors, from their church groups, again, up in towns in some cases I've never heard of. So kudos to the word getting out there. Simple email to gregmeekin2020@gmail.com. And I'll reply, and we'll put your name on the list. We'll make sure your voice is heard and your vote is counted. So that's as encouraging news as I could ever imagine. But at the same time, just like you, Val, I'm overwhelmed, busy in a fun
Yeah,
way, but busy. I'm really surprised with the outpouring of passion for Alberta 51.
this is called the All In crowd, and that crowd runs right across Alberta. Freedom and loyalty to the United States of America runs deep across Alberta, and I want to recap this memo, okay? Because this memo is going to be the backbone of this entire happening, and this is in motion. And for those of you that are just joining now, you've heard about the memo. That's why you're watching this video. And what is the point of this memo? The point of this memo is to achieve uh, the initial steps of the referendum, which is right now. So if you want to participate, number one, we need to know if you are or will be an eligible Alberta voter in 2023. You can simply email Greg Meekin for no, and that's Greg, Greg, Meekin, Meakin, at gmail.com. Number two, you will immediately be put on the voter tally list. You can stay anonymous if you choose. Okay. And Greg is personally responding to every one of these emails. Like he said this morning, he spent over 2 hours, and my phone is just a constant. I have to put it on vibrate or mute sometimes because it just doesn't stop. Like the outpouring of people and questions it's in motion. Let me say that. Number three, you don't have to commit to a yes or no vote just yet, but if you have decided, your vote will be tallied confidentially, and you will be kept in the loop throughout and contacted prior to referendum day. I say just pencil it in. If you go to my calendar, June 30th, 2023, right? Just put it on the calendar. Number four, you don't have to worry that your vote won't count or your voice won't be heard. This referendum forensic poll is simply a direct question to you as an Albertan and will be accurately recorded. Unlike most elections these days, your voice will be heard and the U.S. Senate will listen. And that's important. So important that the U.S. Senate will listen. Why? Because there is a system. There is a system. The Alberta referendum has a system. So before we go into the summary and call to action, Greg, is there anything else you want to include about how to participate?
No, just that the quick correction on the email address. It's gregmeekin2020@gmail. And it's real common to leave out the numbers, but it's gregmeekin2020@gmail.com. And no, it was real succinct and clear how you did it, Val. The key, people to just start it with an email, register your vote, and we'll all get ready for June 30th.
All right, summary and call to action. I have voted in 2 Quebec provincial referendums and was drawn to the plight of today's Alberta and the other Western provinces. Only in the past few years, I've researched the Alberta 51 movement closely and have published extensive material on the subject. On September 1st, 2022, I published a blueprint for success for Alberta 51 to be successful sooner rather than later. The following memo and scores of radio shows and podcasts I've done in the past year have been discussions on this very blueprint. I have always theorized that a successful Alberta independence endeavor would be initiated from the U.S. side of the border. If the result of the forensic poll confirms a yes majority of Alberta voters, this will of the people will be presented to the United States Senate. It is my hope and expectation that a formal invitation will be forthcoming for Alberta to rejoin the Union. The U.S. Constitution will drive this simple Freedom 1A, 2A issue. There are numerous social media groups, politicians, and people in both Canada and the U.S. who are in favor of Alberta 51. And there are many skeptics and naysayers as well. This poll is 100% independent and clinical, but everyone is invited to the party here. Feel free to promote, educate, or just lend your voice to the June 30th referendum. Anything else you'd like to include, Greg, on that section?
No, I'll tell you that was great. That was absolutely great. I really appreciate you actually reading through it on air. I know people out there, a lot of broadcasters out there used to do that. I know Rush Limbaugh and a few others would, and it's very cool to actually hear stuff read on the air verbatim as the document reads. I just want to make a quick note, and this is kind of directly to you and your following, Val. Um, I want to talk about moms and life for moms, and I'm talking right now. Uh, for the most part, Generation X moms and millennial moms are running the world. They're the ones who are, as you know, chasing kiddos around and stuff. And I still think, I've always said that moms are the most unheralded, underrated profession in the world. But that said, I believe they're going to have a dramatic influence in this referendum. I say this, Val, because of the emails that I've received. And when we talk about home zone issues like groceries, like togetherness, like education, that your kids aren't taught garbage in schools, their moms, number one, are paying attention, and moms are going to take action. And moms, I believe, can unto themselves sway elections. And the thing about moms that people, and I say that I'm grouping all of you together, Val. The thing about moms is they're the decision makers of the household. Being the old car guy I am and working for Saturn over the years and Toyota over the years, we knew, smart car guys knew that women in the household make literally, it's either 80 or 90% of major decisions or influence major decisions. So, in dismissing in any way a woman or a mom or what have you buying a car is a stupid way to do business because they're the decision makers. And so, when we chat kind of down to earth about how life is around the dining table and life is in a mom's life like yours, Val, and we are talking grocery prices, we're talking gas prices, we're talking all those issues. I just want to let you know that I reach out to moms out there to really learn about the Alberta 51 movement. And if in Alberta, vote yes, of course. And if in the United States, support the movement. Support the movement. Alberta needs to know that they're welcome. They're welcome home to the United States, whether they continue to live up in Alberta, wonderful Alberta, or they choose actually to maybe even move to the States. But either way, they're going to have the choice. And that's the moms. The moms, I believe, will be able to actually influence this referendum and also be just huge beneficiaries of not only daily life but also regard, respect, the dignity that you all deserve for contributing so much to our world. Seriously. So there you go.
That's really good, Greg. I quite enjoy how you've explained it, because whether you're a mom on this side of the border or that side of the border, when it comes to protecting children, your children, or it comes to raising your children, we are all like-minded, right? We can sit around the table and say keeping our children safe is important, period. And there's so much that unites us. And when you try and take away our identities, significance, importance, really try and gaslight us through propaganda and manipulative tactics on that it's a bad thing to identify as a wife and woman and mom. And, that's who you are. That's who you are. You're chiseling away at the wrong end of this, because that just fires us up and that gets us into go mode. Trust me. So I'm excited. I'm excited because women really have the opportunity in this history making time. This is a time in history we will look back and see that there was so much rallying and banding together of information and paving a way, paving a path, and navigating from the home zone. Okay, this is all happening from the inside out. Politics is happening at home, and it's happening through discussions. It's happening through change, making changes at home, and it all starts with personal accountability and focusing on making your marriage strong, getting happy, being happy, content, and dreaming about a better way and a better path and a better life. And all signs point to the great United States of America. And I am so thankful. I really truly am. I'm thankful to the founding fathers who really started this, right? They started this. I didn't. They did. And now we're just trailblazing. We are trailblazing a path forward. And there are so many of us. I mean, you can look up or down, right or left, and the go signs, the green lights are just going off every step of this. So this referendum and forensic poll is a direct question to the Alberta voter only. This plan does not require the permission, endorsement, or even participation of any current politician in Alberta or elsewhere in Canada, although that would be nice. No leaders have been chosen, no internal squabbling is invited, and no person or organization has influence in this process. There is no need at this point. Only the referendum will begin this easily workable formality, and there is no need to get the cart before the horse. The majority of the people could vote no. Voters and accurate voters are simply going to be tallied and announced June 30th, 2023. At this moment, this blueprint has the official endorsement and future commitment of L. Gordon Kessler, Honorary First Governor of Alberta, USA, Sheriff Mark Lamb, Honorary First Sheriff of Alberta, USA, and yours truly, Val Olson, independent journalist and podcaster, Honorary Chair of the Arizona 48 Alberta 51 Welcome Home Committee. A great number of formal endorsements and commitments are in process and will be announced in the weeks and months to come. Stay tuned to Greg Meekin's website, gregmeekin.com, my Twitter Spaces podcast, and Mike Phillips' radio show. Email now. Your voice and your vote will finally be counted. God bless. Greg Meekin, author, Why I Came to America and What I Think Now, Arizona City, Arizona, via Seattle, raised in Dorval, Quebec, gregmeekin.com, mainly Facebook and YouTube. Email to register for Alberta 51 vote, gregmeekin2020@gmail.com. And that concludes the letter, the official memo to Albertans. Anything you want to add, Greg?
Boy, I think it says it all, doesn't it, Val? I think it says it all. And just a quick reach out, before we wrap up or call it a day. I know we all got a busy Monday, but just a quick wrap, just to deeply thank you. There are a few people that are mentioned on the memo, and it's so important. Thank you deeply for just the amount of work you've done, literally over years and years, on Alberta independence, Alberta 51 issues. I thank Gordon Kessler. Gordon Kessler has been amazing. He's been just incredible dignitary behind the scenes, and indeed, I told him I nominated him for the first honorary governor of the new state of Alberta. I deeply thank Sheriff Mark Lamb, of course, Val, and of course, Mike Phillip, the one and only Mike Phillip, up at American Huck Radio, based out of Edmonton. And I don't think there's ever been a cheerleader, a proponent like Mike Phillip out there, and really for the last 20 years. So it's amazing to me what's been accomplished in such a short time, but also that the blueprints on the blueprint is there for people to take action, and that their voice can be heard and their vote can be counted. And I'm so encouraged. I'm so encouraged by the feedback, and indeed, so much will be rolling out here starting February 14th with the brand website. But so much will be rolling out between now and June. You are well aware, Val. You're well aware that June 30th is going to be actually a big event in the province of Alberta. Might even, fingers crossed, feature a big rodeo. There might be a chuck wagon and some soup available. That kind of an event. Maybe even a singer or two or a comedian or two. Val, it's going to be fun. I will assure, I can tell people this. Um, there will be an event, boots on the ground, on Anchorage in Alberta, and there will also be a base camp. I call it a base camp, media base camp, in Edmonton, the city of Edmonton. Imagine this. The platform will be Mike Phillip running likely a live feed of the event. So rodeo, boots on the ground, and Mike Phillip watching over the whole thing in his base camp at American Up Radio. I can't think of anything more fun of an event, and I can see it in my mind and become reality as well. I think you know that real well. So that's kind of my sign off of the day. Just wishing everybody blessings and prayers and stuff for not only a great week, but a great endeavor towards bigger and better things in life.
God bless the great states of the Alberta, USA. And that concludes the segment number 5 called The Memo.